It's time for another Elsie's Little Pickles, the pickle pod for the people. Reminding you all to do your pickle pod protest. Put a pickle on a porch of a MAGA supporter. Send the picture of that to us here at Elsie's Little Pickles at gmail.com. What a fucking week, and it's only Tuesday? Oh my God, it's only Tuesday. Another Pope bites the dust. We still got Trump playing fascist jazz all over the fucking planet. And
he's jazzing on us.
He's jazzing on us. Another Pope bites the dust. And another one's gone, and another one's gone, and another Pope bites the dust. Hey! Jesus gonna get you too. And another one.
In nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
All right, well done. Let's just get right to it. And here is Kiefer with the news. Don't let an awkward silence.
Yeah.
Not an awkward silence. That was a dramatic pause.
It was a pregnant pause, and I'm guessing you're the one that impregnated it.
Well, you know, gave me the wink. I gave it the nudge. Soon that Daily Digest became a journal.
You know, people might criticize us for laughing at these horrific stories, but I honestly believe that if we don't laugh through this, because let's face it, we got till 2028, so we've got.
You're not laughing, you're crying, man.
Exactly. If we're not laughing, we're crying. So hopefully, people pick up on the fact that
I prefer not to be crying, but rather moaning in ecstasy.
Well, that's not going to happen unless you enjoy getting fucked by the Trump administration.
Hope I disturbed everybody.
Oh, let me tell you something. I'm going back into therapy first thing tomorrow with that visual.
As Butthead used to say, the only thing better than guys that get all the chicks is guys that scare all the chicks. That's me, baby.
Let's try this one more time. And here's Kiefer with the news.
Trump's final offer for peace requires Ukraine to accept Russian occupation.
Which is insane. It's
Bring back the Eastern Bloc.
It's exactly the reason there's a war.
Yeah.
Like, that would be like Zelensky going, you know what? Okay, I'm sorry.
That would be like me showing up at your house, occupying it, and I'm just jabbing you in the face with fingers.
Yeah.
Tears in his eyes.
The police show up and just like, you know what? We're just don't touch each other.
Yeah, that's all we're asking.
Don't touch each other.
You go to that corner and you go to that corner.
It's like when we were kids.
I just stand there just once in a while.
Yeah, this is like, I mean, that idea is like when we were kids. Just don't touch you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
Exactly.
I'm not touching you. Come on.
You know, with the Russia-Ukraine thing, I think something interesting in like a historical comparison, it's kind of a stalemate and has been basically the whole time. But what the historical comparison that I'm seeing is that it's very much like the Western Front of World War I, where the introduction of tanks caused the stalemate. In the modern era, it's the introduction of drone warfare causing the stalemate.
No, it's actually a very acute observation. And the fact of the matter is that in the end, what we've learned is that Russia is not as strong as they think they are, and Ukraine is surprisingly resilient.
Yeah.
When you're going up against what most would consider a superpower. You know,
well, I mean, part of the problem is like Russia thought that they were very much of the Hitlerian mindset that like, okay, we're just going to roll through. It'll be done in a month.
Yeah.
And
then they discovered how thick the mud was in Ukraine.
Yeah, but they thought like, okay, we're gonna throw everything we have at them, and it'll be over in a month or two, and then we'll.
I don't think they thought it would take that long. Honestly, they thought it was going to be 3-4 days. I don't think they thought it was going to be more than a week.
Let me ask you guys this: what would you consider your favorite story out of the Ukraine war? Because I have a favorite story.
Mine was the one man, one horse guy going to fight over there and unfortunately dying.
Mine was the two guys on Snake Island that were like, "Fuck you." Those guys were great. Like they
was it the I think it might have been the one man, one jar guy, not the one man, one horse guy.
I don't know that
Is
story.
that like 2 girls, 1 cup?
Oh God.
If it's either way, I'm sure you can picture it. But I think now that I'm thinking about it, it was the one man, one jar guy, which was just a video. It starts. There's just a glass like mason jar on the floor, and then you see a dude with no socks or pants on step over the jar,
I haven't
lower
seen
himself onto it, and in so doing, the jar shatters.
that. Oh, I have not seen that.
Yeah, he put a full-sized mason jar up his ass, and his ass was so grippy that it broke it.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that.
Oh my God. What kind of fucking videos are you watching? What the fuck?
I grew up in the wild west of the internet, okay?
Yeah, I know that. I grew up a feral Gen Xer. I mean, I'm willing to give latitude, but fuck.
My
A
favorite
mason
Ukraine
jar?
story was the Russian troops barreling into Kiev and running out of gas.
See, I still go back to the fuck you guys on Snake Island. I mean, those guys were like, right in the beginning, like, come on, suck my dick, you fucking dictator. Fuck you. Fuck you.
And tape my dick.
Yeah, I mean, those guys were fucking brutal. I mean, talk about something that I think that those guys, more than anything, especially in the beginning of the war, were the reason why there was so much upfront. Yeah, fuck you. We're going to fight this. You know what I mean? Even as people were being pulled out of their homes and just fucking shot in the streets, those guys, man, they kind of set the tone. Zelensky has covered it, but those guys set the tone. I see Colton giggling to himself. What are you giggling at?
One guy, one jar has an IMDb page.
Of course he does.
Dear God.
Of course he does.
Alexei Tartarov. That's his name.
Oh, good.
But yeah,
Well,
unfortunately, we lost him to the Russians, the fucking Ruskies. But, you know.
I guarantee it wasn't the jar up his ass that slowed him down.
Just the fact that he survived that, though.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, that's just... Ugh. Okay. All right, next story, because I got to move away from this mason jar. Because, I mean, look, Elsie's Little Pickles, the whole point of the show was to get to the point where we were profitable enough that we could actually make Elsie's pickle recipe, which she used to put in mason jars.
Oops.
Oops. Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Talk about breaking the glass ceiling. Anyway. Yes. Musk says he will step back from Trump's Doge as Tesla reports dismal earnings.
They're down like 71% or something fucking ridiculous when you take
Something
into
crazy.
effect the tariffs and when you take into effect that Elon was involved with this administration. And I will ask this question again, knowing that it will fall on deaf ears and no one will be able to answer it. But I just read this article where Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, was in some sort of fucking court, and he's like crying, I don't have any money. I don't have 2 nickels to rub together. I can't pay these fines. I can't pay nothing.
buy crack.
I don't know what to do. How many people have to be...
Go cry me a pillow.
Go cry in your pillow. How many people have to be in Trump's orbit and either end up in jail, end up losing their legal licenses, or end up bankrupt with their companies before you go, you know what? I'm going to stay out of Trump's orbit. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to speak bad against him because I worry about any implications to my business, but I'm not going to support him either.
You know what? I am angry at Mike Lindell. You know why?
Because he started this shit.
Because I enjoy his pillow. I've got one. It's nice.
They're not bad. They're not a bad. They weren't a bad pillow.
I like my IKEA pillow.
But with all that being said, I mean, how many people in Trump's orbit just from the first administration ended up either being in jail, disbarred, or bankrupt?
Yeah, I mean, they really face a choice between corporate financial suicide or, I don't know, maybe just don't do that, but
For a
they
smart-
just keep picking corporate suicide.
Yeah, for as smart as apparently, supposedly, Musk is.
Oh, I think
did he
he
not
is.
learn from Giuliani and Lindell?
Well, here's the thing. I
Come on.
think he is as smart
Both
as
of those
as
guys
he
are in
thinks.
financial
Musk is
ruin.
not smart.
No, hold on. Hear me out before you say this. I think he is smarter than Lindell. I think he is smarter than Giuliani. I think he's smarter than all of the people in Trump's cabinet combined. That's the problem. He thinks he can't be fooled. And the easiest people to fool, I can tell you after 30 years in stand-up, and I can tell you as somebody that's had to supplement their income over the years doing sales, the easiest people to fool are the smartest people. They think that they cannot be fooled, and therefore all you have to do is lay the trap. And that's what Trump does, and he does it eloquently. You saw this. Me and Keith were talking about this earlier. If you look at what happened with Bill Maher going to the White House and meeting Trump with Kid Rock, perfect example, okay? And that's because Bill Maher, first off, went in expecting nothing but shit. And he's a smart guy.
Okay.
No, he's a smart guy. Say what you will about his comedy or his politics or his views or his...
He might be a smart guy, but he clearly can't smell the shit on his own knees. That's all I'm saying.
And you might be right about that. However, I think that this is where Trump wins. Because I don't think in New York City especially during the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, not only in real estate, but also in television, you don't get to where Trump got to and his level of visibility without being charming. You have to be a political animal. You have to be a business animal. You have to be a predator.
And Maher fell for it hook, line, and sinker.
Now, I think he did. I do think that Maher fell for it.
Fell for it.
However, with that being said, I don't blame him for falling for it. You know why? We have somebody in our family who is a business person, and I dislike vehemently. However, I have said it before. He's smart. He's a good man. He's a good husband. And he can be charming as all fuck. He can be charming as all fuck. And even though I dislike him because I see through all of that bullshit, when he's charming, he's fucking charming. And I think that that's the secret to Trump. Trump knows when to be charming. He knows when to turn it on. And when you know how to turn it on, and on top of that, have the the instincts of a comedian like he does, he clearly does. You could say whatever you want.
Unfortunately, yes.
He knows how to handle a heckler. He knows how to fucking come up with a quick retort. He knows how to deliver a line. He knows how to milk a line. He knows how to think of that line ahead of time and have it in his back pocket.
But he practices in the mirror.
He probably does. That's probably why he's up at 4 a.m. tweeting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he runs these lines. He just like a comedian. He sits there with all of his friends talking late into the night, and here's what they say, and he'll say something in return. They'll give him a laugh or whatever, and he's like, I got to remember that. And he's got a steel trap memory when it comes to certain things, and that's one of those things. The problem with Elon is that Elon thinks he's the smartest and the richest man in the world. That's the problem with Elon. He actually believes his own press. He believes his own bullshit. And because of that, it will bankrupt him. The sooner he gets completely away from Trump and disavows everything that's going on, like right now, he's fighting against the tariffs.
Yeah. I think that ship has already sailed. He threw in for the campaign. He profited off of the campaign. He stuck around after to,
and now he's paying the price for it.
I think that ship has sailed. I think he will be a victim of his own success in many ways and of his own, what would you call it, hubris.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I just don't think, I think that he will be brought down to maybe a couple of billionaire instead of 300 billion. And I think that in his mind, that's like being broke. And it is.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, for him, when you can just reach into your pocket and buy Twitter, yeah, if you only got 2, 3, 4, 5, 10,
and then sell it to yourself at a loss as a write-off.
Yeah, if he finds himself in a position where he's worth what Trump's worth, he's going to feel like a fucking pauper.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think it was on Tesla, he lost like $78 billion or something like that just in the last couple of weeks. Not including from before.
I don't think Tesla's making it another 5 years, quite honestly.
Well, when
At this rate,
when you piss off everyone who buys your cars, everyone, because everyone that was buying his cars were liberals. Everyone
at this point, he no longer sells any cars to liberals because they don't want anything to do with it.
And let me tell you something: a liberal turns its back on you, it never turns its front back towards you.
No, and on top of that, he's pigeonholed Tesla, SpaceX, all of his companies, Twitter, as MAGA brands now.
Exactly. And
so
that's why
once MAGA is kind of, back in the fringe, so too will he be.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, you can say whatever you want about Trump, and you can say whatever you want about Elon. But at the end of the day, Elon is going to be Trump's second administration's Mike Lindell.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I think you're already seeing that. And if he doesn't recognize that, which I think he does based on the fucking investors call he did today, I think he does realize it. And I think he's going to start pushing back really, really hard. And that, along with the bro universe that supported and got Trump elected, Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, specifically, those two, they're already turning their backs on this bullshit. You know what I mean? You're seeing Rogan go, hold on. Wait a minute. There was no due process when it came to all these fucking deportations. That's not okay. So once Rogan turns his back on you, Theo is going to follow suit. And as every other broadcaster out there, okay, they're all going to turn. They all turned towards him because Rogan was like, okay, let's check this out. Yeah. And that's whatever you want to say about Joe Rogan's universe, they are loyal to only Joe. So whether that's Theo Vaughn, whether
he's got his own like subcult, it's kind of weird.
Well, whether that's
remind me when we get to talking about the Supreme Court and the decision made, how the Trump administration keeps the people out of court, the due process, how they keep that from happening.
They ship in the fucking El Salvador and they go, oh,
no. It's deeper than that.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Oh, yeah. I mean, that's all right. Go to the next news story and we'll get there as quickly as possible because I don't want to forget that.
Trump's MAGA faithful want to get even because they have nothing left to lose.
What are they getting even with?
What are they getting even for?
Essentially, it's a story about a couple of families out of West Virginia who voted for Trump, knowing that their household gets less than $25,000 to $30,000 income. They've had massive floods. They see people of color, people who are immigrants, doing better than them, and so they wanted to vote for Trump so that they would hurt.
Okay,
so just racist vitriol. Great.
No, I don't
basically.
think it's yes.
It is. It's people who are doing better than us, who are not a bunch of redneck hicks living here. We want them to hurt. We want them to suffer.
I think it's an LBJ.
That's
quote.
what they're saying.
No, I get that. I get that part of it, but it goes deeper. That's my point, is that when you look at the racial aspect of it, that's easy to dismiss and understand. But the real thing is that they can't understand that those people worked harder than they did. That's the sad part. That's really the sad part.
Harder. But also, this goes right back to, I believe it's an LBJ quote. Lyndon Johnson said, "If you can convince the worst off white man that he is still better than the best off person of color, then he will vote for you no matter what, even as you're stealing from his pocket."
Yeah, no, and again, I get all of that, but here's what it boils down to. They cannot accept the fact that no matter how hard they work, there are other people that work harder. That's it. I mean, that's it.
Well, and also, What state did you say this was in? Missouri?
West Virginia.
West Virginia. West Virginia is a dead state. Like,
Yes.
I'm not saying that there aren't good people there. I'm not saying that they're not hard workers, but you're not getting a multi-million-dollar salary in West Virginia. That just doesn't happen.
I mean, there are some that do, but in general, you're right. There's just not a lot of industry. There's not a lot of opportunity in West Virginia. And really, to be honest with you, aside from Snowshoe Mountain, I'm not even sure what the fuck else there is to do in West Virginia.
Mine coal.
Aside from
mine,
I was going to say, from mining coal and going skiing and eating at the Hardee's that's just across the bridge, I don't know what, and I've been there, and that's what we did.
Parts of the country I've seen is, in fact, West Virginia, northern Alabama, and Mississippi.
Mississippi was absolutely the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Mississippi, because Mississippi regularly ranks 49th or 50th on basically every metric of
Alabama. Alabama was bad, and I toured Alabama.
Yeah, there's only one part of Alabama that is actually nice,
and that's where they do all the space stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where is it again? Is that it's
Huntsville?
Was it Huntsville? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say I've been all over Alabama. I can say that I've been through Alabama. I can say I've gotten off the expressway in Alabama and driven some of the lesser roads.
I had a Chinese buffet in Alabama. And
that's adorable.
We paid $15 a person because we were traveling,
and it was just chicken nuggets with sweet and sour sauce on it from McDonald's.
It was so bad.
I know.
It was so bad.
I've had it.
Well, I mean, what can you say?
We paid $15 for an egg roll because we felt that was the only thing safe to actually eat, and soda. So, because after looking at the actual buffet, we're like, I wouldn't feed this to my dog.
Me and Kirk Nolan, friend of the show, Kirk Nolan, we actually did a tour that took us through all of that. Okay. And when we were in Mississippi, we got, because this was before GPS really, right? GPS would have been absolutely out of our financial reach at that point.
Back in the map times.
Yeah. So this was this was like MapQuest, print out all your shit and follow those instructions.
Go to AAA to get a triptych.
Go to AAA, get a triptych. That was another option. But we did go through Mississippi, and we were on the right road according to MapQuest. And we did get where we were supposed to go. But MapQuest was looking at it from the shortest distance, not the safest distance.
Yeah.
And the shit that we saw, the poverty we saw, and we had to stop and do laundry. So we were in, like, I don't even know what city it was, but we had pulled over to a laundromat so that we had clean clothes for our next show. And the abject, literal depression and disparity of that state was wrapped up in that laundromat. I mean, I've never seen people that were that horrifically downtrodden, poor, and beaten down. And we grew up in a suburb of Detroit and spent a lot of our childhood in Detroit because our aunt owns a lot of property in Detroit. I spent a lot of time in Detroit because one of my friends, his father had a business in Eastern Market. I've definitively seen poverty, but not like that. Not like that.
Well, you got to remember one, well, the only one. In West Virginia, that is one of those places where you can throw a banjo in the air and whoever catches it will be able to play it.
Oh, goddamn. Yeah. So when...
so your stories of you and Kirk traveling reminds me of wrestling stories, such as Mr. Fuji and Mr. Soto, his tag team partner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but they're both from Japan. And Mr. Soto was going to drive, and Mr. Fuji was going to give him directions to the arena where they were performing. And it took them 7 hours to get there. And after the match, Mr. Fuji
was 3 blocks away.
No, they drove from their home.
Oh, okay.
Soto's home. And Mr. Fuji was like, I will drive after the match. And Mr. Soto was like, cool, I get to sleep. So they left, and they got to Mr. Soto's within 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, because Mr. Fuji led him all around the state.
Oh my God.
Down. It was his idea of a practical joke.
Oh, that's actually funny.
Last thing that I have to say about West Virginia, nothing but respect for the Battle of Blair Mountain. And anyone that doesn't know what that is, essentially it was one of the first militant Union strikes that happened in the United States. I forget when exactly it was. It was in the early 1900s. And this was one of the first major instances of the Pinkertons, they still exist, but they essentially turned into the FBI and the CIA in some respects. But the Pinkertons were sent in, and it was a literal war between the mining union and the federal. Well, they weren't really federal; they were contract. They were mercenary police, essentially.
Blackwater,
well, that's what Pinkerton was. Pinkerton was basically mercenary police. They were government contractors, and that's what you're seeing under Trump. He wants more of that. He wants more.
Yeah, I mean, there are ICE
people.
agents that are literally being sworn in as volunteers to go brutalize and abduct people of color.
So
it's the same thing.
So the thing that,
as they call it, winning the lotto.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear, I'm not making fun of Mississippi. I'm not making fun of West Virginia or Alabama. I just think that they continuously vote in their disinterest. They don't see.
Again, refer back to the LBJ quote. If you can convince the lowest white man that he's still better than the best black man, he won't notice when you're picking his pockets.
Here's, and I don't know if this is true, and I'm going to give credit to this. I was listening to Scaramucci and Caddy K on their podcast, and The Rest is Politics USA. And Scaramucci, say what you will about the mooch, but he's kind of smart, and he definitely has a love of history. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while, he surprises me. And I'm not like a fan of the mooch. I'm not a fan of Anthony, but he does surprise me every once in a while. And today he surprised me. I like Caddy K because I like the back and forth between them. It's interesting to me, the dichotomy of the personalities. They are as opposite as you could imagine, yet somehow that podcast works and is entertaining and educational. And he asked Caddy K, he goes, do you know, because they were talking about Trump's approval ratings. He goes, do you know what Hitler's approval rating was in April when he was dead in the bunker? And people may or may not have known yet. Do you know what his approval rating? It was
80-90%, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't that high. It was in the 40s, just like Trump.
Oh. And
he made one of the most acute observations I think I've heard in a long time, specifically coming out of somebody who I was first introduced as part of the Trump clan, which he is definitively not anymore. And he goes, you know why it was that high? And Caddy K and him went back and forth, and out of that back and forth, the conclusion was people were just that invested. They had nowhere else to go. They had lived, 6-8 years or whatever it was under this bullshit.
33 to 45. So yeah, 12 years.
12 years, but he wasn't always in power in that.
No, that was the period after he got out of jail and he was like a public figure.
Yeah, but he only ran Germany for 6 years, I think? Like he was Führer for 6 years.
It
might have been 8. But
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was given chancellorship in 36 because that's when the Olympics were and he was tweaking at the Olympics.
Okay, so let's say it's 36. So let's say 9 years. How long have we been dealing with Trump?
Yeah, about 9 years.
About 9 years. 20. I mean, you could say 2015. you could say 2015 to 2025 is 10 years, but this year isn't up yet. And he got, I mean, if you really look at when he came down that gold escalator and you add up the months, I'm guessing we're just about 9 years roughly. And the fact is that people are so invested in what he's saying that there's no way they're going to give up on him. No matter what happens, stock market crashes, not giving up on him.
My EBT is gone.
Not giving up on him. Lost my job. I had a government job. Not giving up on him.
They're just in too deep. It's a cult.
It's not. You can take the cult part of it even out of it. They're just invested too deeply. It's the guy who puts his entire life savings into one stock, and that stock eats shit one day for whatever reason. That guy's still holding on. I'm going to hold on, man. I'm going to hold on to this because you know what? It's going to come back. I know it's going to come back. It's going to come back, man. It's the guy who thinks all he needs to do is go to a horse track or go to the casino one more time or place one more sporting bet. I had a friend who's no longer a friend, lost his business because he had a gambling problem. Kept saying, all I need is one payoff. We're good. All I need is one win. We're good. And that's the problem with us in this country. We always believe we're one lottery ticket away from being
a cousin like that.
What's that? Yeah, we got a cousin like that for sure. Fucking 27.
Not to kick a dead horse, but West Virginia, Alabama, Mississippi thing, I feel can be summed up by a quote from a man that I look up to.
Me?
Mr.
Oh, never mind.
No, I said look up to.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Jumped the gun on that one. Oh, egg? Is that Mr. egg Bob on Newhart. My face? Bob Newhart. Oh, yeah.
That's not egg, baby.
All right, Bob Newhart. I can go with you on this one.
Dirty sock. But he once said, I don't like country music, but I don't mean to denigrate those who do. And for people who do like country music, denigrate means to put down.
That's interesting. I feel the same way. I feel exactly the same way about country.
Okay, but I have to draw a distinction between old real country music, like pre-80s, and 80s to now.
Yeah.
80s to now, once it was corporatized and put in Nashville, it's dog shit. Anything before that, there's some bars in there. That's all I gotta say.
All right.
I will say there's some old country that I enjoy. However, I hate to burst your bubble, but even old country
kind of sucks cock.
What? It was so.
You like Johnny Cash. You like Willie Nelson.
I do. I like Dolly Parton.
But
Kenny
Rogers.
What I'm talking about. Kenny Rogers.
My issue is always I like people who sing what they write, and most of the time they didn't write it.
Yeah,
okay,
that's true.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like Johnny Cash, his biggest hits were written by his wife.
Or
that's fair.
Or
can you
Trent Reznor?
Yeah,
I mean that's kind of the big difference here. You know what I mean?
Can you? And I love him to death, but can you name me an Elvis Presley song that he wrote?
Not one.
Not even close. But also, I wouldn't put him in country. He's
well, he went through a country. He went through a country phase. He did go through.
No, he did. I'm not saying he didn't, but to me, he's squarely in the rockabilly.
Yeah, but they all
category.
They all went through those phases. They all did country. They all did gospel. They all did, kind of rockabilly. They all did pop. Or some sort of, form of pop for the time.
Wash your hair.
Wash your hair. But see, the thing is most people don't recognize that because Colonel Parker was adamant that Elvis owned the songs.
Yeah.
So what's his name from Smokey and the Bandit? God, what's his name?
Jerry Reed.
Jerry Reed. When they came to him before he had anything.
I know a thing or two about old country.
So Jerry Reed had a song that Elvis wanted. And they came to him, and Jerry Reed, and this happened with Dolly Parton too, if I'm not mistaken. I think these were the only two artists that wouldn't play that game. Both of them were told by Colonel Parker, Elvis owns the song. And they were like,
Oh,
well,
you might have owned it.
No. And they all said, no, he doesn't. And with Dolly, she walked away hat in hand, thinking originally she was going to make a lot of money off this song, but she wasn't willing to give up the rights to it. So she stood her ground. She's like, you can kiss my left tit, and split. And Jerry did essentially the same thing. Maybe it was a guitar part or whatever. I don't know if it was a full song or if it was just guitar. And he's like, hell no, you don't get that shit. So sometimes standing up for yourself works out and sometimes it doesn't. But either way, if you're talented enough to where Elvis wanted your shit, you're probably going to make it sooner or later. Yeah. And that should be the lesson for a lot of people listening is, you know what? Sometimes somebody who's a big star comes in and this may be your big break in your mind and the only thing that's ever going to happen to you. And, oh my God, I got to just do whatever they say. No, fuck you. Stand your ground, hold your fucking material and be strong enough to go, I'll pass. Thank you. I'm very appreciative, but no, this is my work and I'm going to get credit for my work. Anyway.
All right. Moving on to more news really quick. Of course, Trump announces deployment of U.S. forces to the Middle East without congressional approval.
But on the bright side, Hegseth announced it to the world on Signal.
Yeah, he was like, hey, wife and brother-in-law with no security clearance.
And lawyer and buddy and I mean, Jesus Christ.
Editor-in-chief at The Atlantic.
In his defense, he wanted his brother-in-law's advice and to roll the dice like in Dungeons and Dragons. Should we send 5?
It was a critical miss.
F-35s or you see how many? Roll.
Roll.
It was a critical miss. He rolled a nat 1.
So the thing that's interesting to me about Hegseth is literally, I believe everyone around Trump was like, you're going to go with him for Pentagon? Like, really? That's the guy?
Yeah. Why do I get the feeling like, I mean, I know
he should have just gotten the press secretary.
That when he was announced, everybody was like, that's not, oh, wait, you're serious.
Yeah. Because this was, I mean, look, for what? I don't even know. I think it was 9 years. He was like a Fox News talking head, but not like a normal one. He was like the Weekend. He was the fucking Weekend guy. So now that, the Pope is dead, guess what? I'm guessing he's going to take him out of the Pentagon and out of the cabinet and go, maybe Pete Hegseth should be fucking.
I love when they show him like, shirtless in the water drinking.
Yeah, like the Deus Vult tattoo.
Yeah, that like, what's going on there?
Oh, there's a lot going on there. And none of it belongs running.
He was a Christian nationalist before it was cool.
Yeah. Yes. Well, you know what I mean? He's OG. He's an OG.
I'm pretty sure around his thigh, he's got one of those Opus Dei
fucking straps. Like Pete, what was it? Paul Bettany in Angels and Demons.
Yeah. So I don't remember what it's called, but it's a torture device.
The thing that bothers me about all of this, aside from the fact that literally the Congress pushback from the Republicans is non-existent. And therefore making Congress basically irrelevant.
I mean, Congress hasn't really sent any troops themselves since Vietnam?
Well, here's my question. At this point, what could be done by Congress better than ChatGTP?
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Not to change the subject.
Wait a minute. Wait. Let me ask you this. You guys, your silence answered that question.
It's the clicks. Well. That's what people can do better.
I gotta ask you, why is it that people get suckered into these cults like the Opus Dei with the Spy Master, I'll call it, around the leg? Like, why don't we get offers like, hey, Steve, I got an offer for you. We're gonna put you in a position of high power. You gotta wear this around your leg.
All right, so I can explain that.
Me personally, I would be the first one. Me personally, I'd be the first one to be like, all right, yeah, sure, let me hang out with you. Why don't we do some lunges?
Okay, let me put that in perspective. For as bad as that leg thing is that Paul Bettany wore in Angels and Demons and apparently is a thing in Opus Dei, right? For as bad as that is, let me back you up to early Christianity. So I just came down from the fucking mountain, all right, guys? And I know you're not going to like this, but apparently God wants us to cut our foreskins off to show that we really love him. Which one's worse?
He's got his own foreskin. Let him play with it.
Yeah, I mean, which one's worse, though? You know what I mean?
The only hoodie she can't steal.
I mean, back in the day... Back in the day, though, it's not like they had fucking scalpels. It's not like they had sharp, really, I mean, we're talking, they were doing this shit with, like,
where do you think cigar cutters came from?
Yeah. So, I mean,
just saying,
like, this whole idea, this is the reason why, for me, I don't participate in any group that would have me. All right. So, like, if you're saying, oh, everyone's welcome, come on in, I am not interested, because if you're going to have me, you're going to have questions. And if you have questions, now I'm the problem. So I prefer, when it comes to religion, to abstain. All right. And that goes for every religion. I prefer to abstain from it. I don't care. Look, if that's what gets you through your day, great. As long as you're not pushing your shit on me, great. As long as you're not trying to forcefully make me believe the way that you believe and it makes you happy, have at it. As Hitchens said, you're welcome to play with your toys. Just don't force me to play with your toys.
Two things with that, and I'm sure we'll get more into this with our last story, but for me, it really comes down to I don't care if you're a person of faith, whatever that faith is. One, don't push it on anyone. Keep it to yourself. Do that in the privacy of your own bedroom.
Yeah.
But also, what I can't be okay with is if that leads to anti-intellectual thought.
Well, it always does, and for many reasons.
Yeah. There's no section of the Holy Babel where God really appreciates somebody who thinks.
No, but
no, yeah, and you're right. But
you have to give.
If we're talking like a non-denominational Christian, I don't go to church, but I believe in Christ and I practice as Christ.
Or even if it's just I believe in a creator of some sort.
Yeah, a deist.
Yeah, a deist.
Yeah, like if it inspires anti-intellectualism, and usually once it's inspiring anti-intellectualism, that's when it starts being really pervasive and like trying to push it on other people.
And that's also when it usually comes to the point of a fervent belief that it needs to be made law for everyone.
Yeah, and then you also mentioned Hitchens, and I just have to point out one of my favorite. You've heard of Occam's razor,
yes?
Right? Well, there's a bunch of different philosophical razors, and Hitchens has one, and it's like recognized.
Oh, I didn't know that, but that's super cool that he got his own razor.
Hitchens' razor is any claim made without evidence can be refuted without evidence.
Correct.
And I think that kind of says it all, doesn't it? I mean, for anyone who's willing to spend a little bit of time thinking about the idea of a deity who is not willing to present themselves, who is not willing to make their actual existence known, should be ignored. And
I often think about it like this. If I was God.
Oh, you're not? And I've been worshiping you for like 7 years now, so please tread lightly here.
And you thought that was holy water sprinkling on you. And if I was God.
We got a little bit of a if I did it situation here.
Yeah.
If I was God, I would not leave belief to chance. I would want people to believe in me because I am here.
Yeah, but the counter argument to that is
you're a fucking god.
Right.
Who cares?
So, the lion doesn't concern themselves with the thought of the lamb, is the argument.
No, this is very true. The foot doesn't care about the ant.
No.
Again, the idea of evil, to the mouse, the cat is evil. But
to the
I'm just saying,
too.
I'm the type of guy that I would take out, Friday night. Well, actually Thursday night for viewers. Take out a Thursday night, 8:00. Be like, hey, just want to check in.
Kind of like the old, when me and were growing up.
Did you pay your 10% this week?
No, it'd be like when me and Keith were growing up, they had to remind our parents that they had children. So it'd be like, it's 10:00. Do you know where your children are?
Oh shit!
Where are they?
On?
Yeah. No, and I.
Oh, it's all right. The young one is picking the fleas out of the older one's hair.
There you go. And I guess what this gets
referencing
to,
that we're monkeys.
What this gets to is, in political and religious terms, if we can bring this all to a crescendo, if you will, J.D. Vance was one of the last.
He took a pope.
One of the last people to see the Pope alive.
Yeah, he was, though. He was snubbed by the Pope. He did get to speak to the Pope, but the Pope got his deputy to lecture the VP on compassion.
Yeah, that happened first, and then, being the compassionate Pope that he was, he came the next day, and they actually met. And I think he looked into those eyelinered eyes of JD's and
he
realized,
saw hellfire and brimstone.
He saw that.
No, he thought he was looking at Robert Smith.
So now that the Pope has passed, I can say, and to be honest with you, I was able to say this a while ago because my intent.
He's such a passionate guy.
Who?
Robert Smith from The Cure.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. One of the things that I can honestly say is true. I was writing back in 2015. I had started writing. I thought it was a great idea to write a book trying to make conservatives understand the difference between conservatism and liberalism. And I was going to do that through the lens of following the election between Hillary and Trump. And I thought
how Hillary is basically a conservative.
Well, that was part of it. It was part of it. That she was actually the conservative that conservatives were looking for. Right?
She just happened to be a woman.
And Democrat.
Yeah.
But she was actually the person that the conservatives at that time had been for the previous 4 years screaming that they wanted. Somebody
and
with
this is why political appeasement does not work.
Well, true, but somewhere along the line they had flipped it to it could only be a businessman. They had always said that they wanted a business person in office, but it could only be at that point. And that's why Trump won the first time, and I think that's why he won the second time. However, going back, one of the things that I had written in that book that I gave up on because I realized it was a pointless endeavor, because there was no way that you were going to bridge the gap at that point between.
No, and every week there was a new 100 pages that you had to write.
Well, and I did. I mean, you know for a fact, I worked on that all the way through Trump's presidency, because then I switched it to following Trump in his presidency, and I did work on
lead up why he won, and then
right, and I worked on it. I worked on it for a solid 6 years, I think.
Yeah,
total. And I finished it essentially. I never published it though, which kind of is the reason why we do this podcast, because what I realized was the amount of shit that was coming out of the Trump administration all the way through his administration was such a difficult task to try to keep track of, that by the time I had written something completely new and disastrous was happening. And I found that while I continued kind of obsessively to continuously document that shit, that
it would have been a 5,000-page manuscript by the time you were done.
It would have been substantial. It would have been substantial, but and I still have it. You know what I mean? Like it's not like I deleted everything. I still have it. but it became almost a pointless exercise. And then I gave up on it. I never completely finished it. I mean, I have all the notes. I have all the stuff that I wrote. I have all the pages, but I never put it through the final process of editing, rewriting, and then publishing. But one of the things that I had said, and this goes back to 2015, maybe 2016, I was talking about Pope Francis and how much I actually admired him at that time and still do. I found him to be so let me back this up a little bit. I was born in the 70s, as was Keith.
71.
Right. 71. And at that time, it was, well, first, let me ask, do you guys know from 1971 till now how many popes there have been?
What, it's like 5 or 6, right?
5.
5.
Okay. So you had Pope Paul VI from 63 to 78, known for concluding the Second Vatican Council, promoting ecumenism, and overseeing the major liturgical reforms. You had Pope John Paul I, who was only Pope for 33 days, known as the Smiling Pope. His sudden death led to many conspiracy theories. Then they overcorrected because I don't know if it was because of the age of John Paul I or if it was they were concerned about health issues with older popes. But then they overcorrected and they went with Pope John Paul II, who was in the papacy from 78 to 2005, noted for he was the first Italian or non-Italian pope in 455 years. That was a big deal. That was a huge deal. Here he was Polish and fucking pope. That didn't register well for a lot of people.
I got your kielbasa.
Kinda, yeah. And the fact that he survived an assassination attempt and he helped end communism in Eastern Europe and he traveled extensively. Then you had Benny, Pope Benedict, 05 to 13, known for his theological writings and being the first pope in nearly 600 years to resign voluntarily. And then you had Francis, 2013.
Which I think I just to bring it to politics real quick, I think Francis was just progressive enough that they're going to overcorrect and pick a fucking Nazi.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. That's my concern. So he was from 2013 until he passed on Easter Monday, and he was known for emphasizing humility, social justice, environmental issues, and reform within the church. Okay?
I mean, his Easter message was free Palestine, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of was. And in this political environment in the United States, he was considered woke.
Yeah.
He was considered woke because he didn't wash cardinals' feet. He washed prisoners' feet, female prisoners' feet, AIDS patients' feet. Oh, that's woke? Or is that what
Christ-like
we would have been taught Jesus would have done?
You and your Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah, I mean, like, so the very things that we hear these quote unquote Christian nationalists barking about, specifically when it comes to being woke, and their disagreements, with the behaviors of Pope Francis, are the very fucking things that Jesus would have done.
Francis happened, I don't know how many of you know this, but he actually traveled with a rabbi and an almond.
I did not know that.
I found that out earlier from you, and it makes sense.
Friends.
And it makes sense, but it's almost a fucking joke, right?
Yeah,
you know what
obviously.
I mean? You know,
a rabbi,
a pope,
and an
fucking they go into a fucking bar.
They walk into a bar, but the atheist ducked.
But there's just one other point that I have to make about the whole, like, oh, this is the woke pope. I don't think he's in heaven. Oh, right.
Yeah, and that's all over.
From
look at MTG,
the American Christian nationalist movement, right?
She tweeted after his death that God was killing the evil ones.
Yeah, but what's so just painfully ironic to me is that Protestantism, which is the predominant strand of Christianity in America.
Strand like a virus.
Yeah.
Yes. Protestantism was created on the basis of we do not like the elitism of the Catholic Church and that they only preach in Latin and tell us what it means rather than us being able to read it for ourselves and get our own meaning out of it.
Yeah.
And the Christian nationalists in America haven't touched a fucking Bible.
Well, why would they? It's easier just to hold it up and thump it against your left hand.
Yeah, look at Trump, who held up the Bible
upside down and then sold them.
It's a beautiful Bible. It's got my name on it.
And it's got the Constitution and the Bill of Rights in the
and the 11
appendices.
commandments. The 11th is thy shall buy my crap.
Everyone thought it was Reagan who said, no Republican shall cause a problem with another Republican, but it turns out it's everyone has to buy my merch.
But I think it's important that we kind of explore kind of more generally Christianity as a whole, or really any organized religion in this conversation.
They're all wrong.
Well, yeah, they're obviously, but like it is, I think, important to, as people who consider ourselves atheists to have an understanding that many American Christians do not of their own scripture.
I think that's what made us atheists.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
True.
I know for a fact that's what made me an atheist. It was the fact that here I had spent all the way up to 15 years old. I had spent 3 years in Bible study being taught by an English professor how to read the Bible correctly, how to understand what I was reading. Academically understand what I was reading. And once I was a member of the church, he kicked all of his students out of the church for 1 year and said, visit every type of religious institution you can and ask questions. And I did. I was one of the few that actually did that. I went beyond Christianity. I went into all kinds of levels of religion.
I mean, just being that close to Dearborn, I'm sure you went to one or two mosques.
The mosques, I not so much. I went through all of the denominations of Christianity, and I did speak with a rabbi. I didn't go to synagogue, but I did speak with. Actually, I spoke with more than one rabbi. Where I fell flat was on Islam, and I still wish I had explored that more, because as a 15, almost 16-year-old, I would have been able to ask questions with a lot more sincerity than I can today. So that was my big mistake. And I just wasn't exposed to that opportunity, really, to be honest with you. Like, I didn't have any in with that. Whereas everything else, I knew somebody that could say, this is my friend, he's coming, with us, and blah, blah, blah. My biggest disappointment, though, was with the Catholics. That was definitively my biggest disappointment, because I was sitting there talking with...
It's all about the power dynamic for Catholics.
Very much so. Although I've got some fucking funny stories about Catholic priests.
Oh, I'm sure, but in a religious sense, from what I've gathered, it is all about the power dynamic.
I would agree. I would overall agree, but I don't think
Pope over Cardinal, whether it's Cardinal over Bishop, whether it's Bishop over Parish,
it's all about who
you're
has the larger
absolutely
head.
right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all about the headwear. But there were a few priests along the way, and this is why I say, like, where I was the most disappointed was the Catholic Church, but also throughout life, where I've been the most impressed has been from Catholic priests. Not the Catholic Church, but certain priests. And
not the kid touchy ones.
No, not the kid touchy ones. In fact, that's a whole different story. But what I found is that there are certain priests who get it, and even they don't buy into it fully. But they're looking for a reason to buy in fully. To me, as an atheist, Francis 100% encapsulated what it meant to try to be a good religious leader. I was going to say, like, in my observation,
he was living a Christ-like life
as the best that he could, and with all sincerity, I can say, out of all the religious figures that I've been exposed to in my 54 years, he is the only one that I would actually want to sit down with and spend some time just asking questions about how he became him. So when an atheist can say they have that level of admiration for a religious leader of one of the largest churches in the world,
yeah, the last vestige of the Roman Empire,
I think you need to tell the story of the child that you told me earlier today.
So I heard this story. I don't know the context or anything, but apparently he was holding some sort of court, and this
issuing a papal bull.
No.
Well, what was it? One of the town halls he would throw?
Yeah, it might have been.
He's the only pope in the last couple hundred years.
I don't, like I said, I don't know the context of how this happened, but essentially what happened was this very, very nervous child, under 10 years old, approaches, had a question for the Pope, and was so nervous that the Pope was like, come on, you can come ask me. And the kid was just terrified, right? And not because he was afraid of the Pope. It was because he was terrified to ask this particular question, because he didn't want to hear the wrong answer for his heart. So this kid comes up to the Pope. Pope goes, you can whisper it in my ear, right?
I feel like I remember this video.
And the kid whispers in his ear, my dad's an atheist. Is he going to be kept out of heaven? And the Pope, pats him on the head and puts him back in the seat or whatever happens to the kid. But the Pope's answer, this was the most beautiful way to respond to a child who was concerned, right? And he said, my Father, meaning God, is a loving Father and would never want to be that far away from his children. And I thought, motherfucker, that's beautiful. Like, I don't have to be a believer for that. I don't have to agree with their stances on whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's, condoms,
which he softened, but soon to be unsoftened, I'm sure.
He did, and that's my concern, is that the church will regress given the politics of the world today, and not just in the United States, whether you're talking...
It's global.
Well, you know what I mean? But that to me, that caring, considered answer to that child, that's what you should believe in. And that is another Elsie's Little Pickles.
When it was still an Eastern religion, Christianity, the churches would waft hot smoke in the aisles.
The churches,
right? The frankincense.
The church died.
Get high, you might become a Christian.
The church died with Francis.